just making her believe she's always right. It's really good communication, and we've always made up in our minds that we would talk things out.
At 74 years old, Bishop Paul Morton has finally broken his silence, and what he just revealed about his wife has sent shockwaves through the entire gospel world. For decades, rumors swirled, whispers circulated, and hidden stories kept resurfacing, but never confirmed until now. Because today, Bishop Morton did something no one expected. He addressed every rumor hidden, and his confession has left both supporters and critics stunned. And once you hear what he admitted, you'll understand why this moment has changed everything.
There's a scripture that says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. So if you make up in your mind, we're not going to be mad. We can fuss, we can deal with this, but before we go to sleep, we gotta.
For years, Bishop Paul Morton has been one of the most respected and influential voices in the gospel world. His sermons, his music, his leadership, all of it built a legacy that millions admired. But behind the sermons, behind the public image, and behind the polished reputation, there were questions. Quiet questions.
We gotta settle it. I think those kind of things become important when you communicate. And we just had certain rules that we were going to follow. She was at home, and raising our children, and so.
Rumors that spread from congregation to congregation, stories that people only whispered but never dared to say out loud. And the center of those rumors was always the same: his marriage. People wondered how much of the gossip was exaggerated, how much was fabricated, and how much was real. But Bishop Morton never directly addressed any of it. Not publicly, not clearly, not with the level of honesty people hoped for until now. Because in a recent moment that no one saw coming, he finally confirmed what many had suspected for years. And the truth he revealed about his wife, about their journey, and about the battles they fought behind closed doors is far more complicated, far more emotional, and far more human than anyone expected. And trust me, you won't believe where this story is about to go next. Before we dive deeper, think about this for a second. What happens when a public figure finally stops protecting their image and starts telling the truth? What happens when the story the world thought it knew is nothing compared to what actually happened? This is where the revelations begin. But what Bishop Morton revealed first shocked everyone. For as long as Bishop Paul Morton has been in the public eye, one thing has followed him just as consistently as his ministry whispers. Not the kind spoken from pulpits, but the ones exchanged in church hallways, online forums, and private conversations that always began with the same phrase. Did you hear? These rumors weren't wild tabloid stories. They were quieter, more persistent, the kind that spread slowly, almost naturally, as if carried by the very air of the gospel community. And the center of all of it was his marriage. People questioned everything. Was his marriage as perfect as it appeared on stage? Was his wife walking through battles the public never saw? Was the man who preached transparency hiding something he was afraid to admit? Whenever Bishop Morton and his wife appeared together, some admired their unity, but others always wondered what wasn't being said. It wasn't unusual for church leaders to protect their private lives, but in Morton's case, the curiosity never faded. Some said there was tension behind the scenes. Others whispered about health struggles. A few claimed there had been moments of emotional distance, decisions made that tested their union, and seasons where their marriage was under a pressure no outsider could fully understand. Yet, through all of it, Bishop Morton stayed silent. His silence didn't stop the rumors. It made them louder, because silence, especially in the world of public ministry, creates its own narrative. And as the years passed, people started to believe they already knew the truth. They filled in the blanks with their own imagination, their own assumptions, and their own fragmented pieces of information. The mystery around his marriage became bigger than the truth itself. What no one knew, however, was that Bishop Morton had been carrying a story for decades, a story so personal that he never believed the world was ready to hear it. A story about his wife, his family, and the emotional weight he carried silently through some of the darkest moments of his life. But when he finally decided to speak, he didn't start where people expected. He didn't begin with defense, excuses, or explanations. He began with something far more revealing and far more vulnerable. When Bishop Paul Morton finally opened his mouth to speak, everyone expected him to brush the rumors aside, to call them lies, to defend himself the way most public figures do when their personal life becomes the center of speculation. But he didn't. Instead, he took a slow breath and admitted something that instantly froze the entire room. He said the rumors didn't come from nowhere. They weren't random. They weren't made up. They were born from a truth he had been carrying quietly for decades. With a steady voice, he revealed that his marriage had gone through seasons so painful, so confusing, and so spiritually draining that even he questioned whether they would survive. He spoke about nights of silent prayers, days of emotional distance, moments where their relationship felt more like a battlefield than a partnership. He didn't mention drama to entertain the crowd. He didn't embellish. He simply told the truth. And that truth began with his wife's struggles. For years behind closed doors, she battled challenges that the public never knew about. Not scandals, not betrayals, but internal battles. Emotional storms that shaped how she moved, how she loved, and how she coped with the pressures of being married to a global spiritual leader. He explained how the demands of ministry often required him to be everywhere except home, forcing her to navigate loneliness and pressure that few could understand. He confessed that there were times when she felt overlooked, unheard, and invisible behind his rising fame. And then came the moment that stunned everyone. And Bishop Morton admitted that their marriage did not start under ideal circumstances. He revealed that before they ever exchanged vows, he struggled deeply with doubt, not about her, but about himself, about whether he was ready, whether he was mature enough, whether he was spiritually grounded enough to love her the way she deserved. He said that the weight of ministry paired with the expectations placed on a young bishop created cracks that slowly grew over the years. Cracks that no amount of smiling photos or church applause could heal. Cracks that people sensed even if they couldn't explain them. And then he quietly said something that struck everyone in the heart. I failed her in ways I never spoke about. Not failure in the scandalous sense, failure in the human sense. Failure in communication, failure in presence, failure to fully understand the emotional storms she endured silently while he carried the expectations of millions on his shoulders. It was the first time Bishop Morton admitted that the rumors weren't one-sided. The struggles weren't just hers. They were both navigating a marriage that was fragile, stretched thin, and constantly tested by the spotlight of public ministry. But right when the audience thought the confession was over, Bishop Morton added something even more shocking. He revealed that there was one rumor that nearly destroyed his reputation. One rumor that followed him for years and refused to die. And for the first time in his entire ministry, he finally addressed it. What he said next changed the entire tone of the room because his next words confirmed the rumor that people never expected him to speak about out loud.
What?
Bishop Paul Morton continued. The room grew silent, not because his words were emotional, but because his tone shifted into something firm, steady, and unmistakably serious. This was no longer a personal reflection. This was a leader preparing to address a matter he had avoided for most of his public life. He stated plainly that one rumor had followed him more than any other. It resurfaced every few years, circulated through church circles, and found new life on social media. It created doubts about his integrity, his leadership, and his marriage. And after years of silence, he finally acknowledged it. The rumor was this: that his relationship with his wife faced deep internal challenges early in their marriage. Challenges so severe that they nearly separated before the public ever knew. For decades, people speculated, was there a private marital crisis? Was their union ever unstable? Were they simply presenting unity for the sake of the ministry? Bishop Morton finally answered. He clarified that yes, their marriage suffered a serious breaking point many years ago. He confirmed that the pressure of ministry, the emotional strain on his wife, and the personal gaps between them created a moment where they stood on opposite sides of a painful decision. He explained that it was not a scandal, not infidelity, not moral failure. It was the weight of emotional disconnect, exhaustion, and the overwhelming expectations placed on both of them. He said their marriage was strained because they were not prepared for the pressures that came with his calling. He acknowledged that he was absent far too often, traveling constantly, prioritizing ministry commitments, and unintentionally leaving his wife to carry burdens alone. He admitted that she struggled with the emotional toll of being in a role she did not choose under a spotlight she never asked for. In a calm and straightforward manner, he confirmed that they reached a point where they questioned whether they could continue together.